Station co-teaching. In station teaching, teachers divide content and students. Students rotate from one station to another where they are instructed either by a teacher or work independently. Each teacher repeats the instruction as many times as the groups change. In this instance, there are 4 stations and there is a teacher at 2 of them. In this video, you will be viewing station co-teaching in a 6th grade science class where they are learning and applying the concepts of convection, conduction, and radiation. The front 2 groups are led by teachers, and they are more experimental stations where the students are engaged in experiments and then answering questions about those. The back 2 tables are working independently without the guidance of a teacher, but using each other and working as a group to complete extensions of these activities through questioning and application. In order to gauge the time that is allowed for each group, there is a sand timer displayed up on the overhead for all the students to see, and a timer alarm that will go off when time is up. Using station teaching for students to do experiments such as this works really well so that there's a small number of students in each group so that they can all participate with the hands-on experimenting and be able to see closely how the experiment's working.
We're going to take its temperature. So right here we're looking at 2.8. So you're going to write 2.8, and this is from here to here. And you're just going to do that over and over again about 6 times. Okay? So here's your
After the lesson, I reflected one area of improvement for this lesson would be teachers had to be so engaged in the stations that they were working with because it was hands-on and materials were needed and such, that the back 2 stations that were working as a group in answering questions may not have been as engaged. To remedy that situation, I think either assigning a leader for each group would be appropriate to keep everyone on task, or teachers might need to try to circulate the room a little bit more, even though they have to be so hands-on with their groups.
And then what you do is wherever your starting line was. No, they're not. Okay, so look, so you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We're just saying it right 13. Okay. Aaron, you already read Alexia, read 4 through 6. Okay, you ready? You ready for next one? Now, every time I do this, I do it different, so you have a different meaning. Well, you're telling this. Originating. So you're going to have the top of the pull down. There's the bottom and you have a pull down. It'd be either you I'm sorry. Go ahead and mark it. Yeah. Start that picture. You mark it. Okay.
What I really did like about this station teaching with these experiments was that each student was able to participate directly with the experiments.
We've got hot water and we're putting cold food coloring in it. What do we look at? What's going to happen? What are those cells we talked about? We circle it. Now, once I put the drawing in, remember, do not reach out and touch them, okay? That mixes the food coloring in the water and then it's all over. All right, you ready? You can't see it anymore. Okay? You just count it over. You stand up and reach back there. Fill each of those beakers or flasks. So 75 milliliters of water. You got one on the table, and they'll go on those white squares. 75 would be that one. Okay, all three of them. All right, as she sets them down, I'll put the food coloring in. Make your observations, okay? Make observations. If you have to stand up and look in it, you can do that, but don't touch it. Don't get it mixing too fast.
Hey guys, you all remember
Look fast, listen out. This is fast right there. Fast. Make your observations. What kind of shape?
At this point, you have seen the work that each station is doing in this class. I'd like to show a small clip of the transition period when groups move from one to the next. At this point, the timer has already gone off and students are waiting for instruction to switch from group to group. In reflection, it would have been a good idea to ask the students to remain seated so that all instruction could be given before they started moving. For this, possibly having a signal that allowed students to see when they were to move, even though they were instructed to wait and do so, having something for them to see would have made it easier for them to not get up and be moving while instruction was still going on.
Make your observations. What happened when the knife hits the hot water?
As Mrs. Metcalf and I reflect on this lesson, we think it worked really well. Station teaching was a really good way to get students involved in the experiments in those front two groups, and then the back two groups worked fairly well and stayed on task pretty good for a group of sixth graders. Now, as I mentioned before, we did decide that next time we do station teaching, we will give some students jobs so that the transitions and the downtime, maybe for independent work and answering questions, stuff like that, will be more directed and more guided. Even though it is from a student, at this grade level, they can do that and they can work together and stay more on task if there is someone in charge per se. Otherwise, we thought that the lesson went very well and that the students were able to gain the information that they needed. And the station teaching, again, was a very good setup for this information that they were getting. And the groups that were working independently together without the direction of a teacher were answering questions that extended from the experiment. So it was a good opportunity for them to take what they had learned hands-on and apply that to questioning and reasoning and working together which is a constant struggle to get the sixth graders to work together. But in station grouping with the smaller group setting, we saw a lot of positives out of the students working together and doing so efficiently.